Kids are back in school. Something that may be on your mind is planning financially for their college education, right? That's always something to keep in mind. And we have some experts on the topic here with us. Joining us this morning from Magnolia Wealth Management, founder and president Ed Cox and wealth advisor Forrest Ryals. So thank you both so much for joining us this morning.
Appreciate y'all having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, to begin, just so we can get to know you a little better, tell us a little bit about your background and just about yourselves.
So I've been in Dothan going on 23 years. This is all I've ever known is financial planning. Graduated from University of Florida, came straight to Dothan, and I've been here ever since. So grew up in Mariana, but yeah, been here. This is home.
All right, and Forrest, what about you?
So I graduated from Troy and grew up in the banking world. I have an accounting degree, so really a mixed match of banking and accounting going hand in hand, and then moved into the personal finance role and really enjoy it.
Okay, well, to begin, just talking about financial planning and wealth management in general, how early should someone seek advice from a financial planner?
Well, I mean, I guess it's never too early to start working on, different aspects of your financial life. But some things like college should probably start a lot earlier than maybe some of the other decisions you may have to make. But earlier is always better, and putting time on your side is probably the winning formula.
And thinking about saving for a college education, if parents are starting to think about that, when should they start saving? A similar question, but when should they start saving for that?
Yeah, I mean, we always say, regardless if it's college savings or retirement planning, which is a lot of what we deal with, is the earlier the better. The earlier you can get the money invested and let that compounding interest add up over the years until you need it, that's the best way to do it.
Okay, so the earlier the better.
Always.
Never too soon to
Never
start.
Too soon. That's right.
Okay. Well, talking about college planning, the parents may be thinking about retirement and saving for college. So how should they think about that? Any advice for planning for both of those?
Yeah, I think really the thing that people should start to plan their financial life around is what's kind of the most pressing issue sometimes. But so a lot of people start to plan on college and what's going to happen with the kids and those type of things. That's good. That's okay. But you have to be aware that they have their full career ahead of them, and a lot of times parents don't have a whole lot of runway left. And so focusing too much on college planning and not your own financial planning for retirement can be an issue. And so there's always balance there. And then really planning is the biggest part of this whole thing. I mean, people worry about where to put the money and how much to put, but the planning side of it and really discussing with kids, why are you going to school? What's the purpose of school? What, when you get out with this degree that you're going in for, what kind of incomes are we looking at? And does it make sense to do this versus this when it comes into what school or how to handle the financial part of it? So there's a lot of planning that should go in, and you should talk to your children and have them involved in that when they get older, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, Zach, I'm thinking about when I was planning for college, and I'm sure when you were too. I mean, did you look at scholarships or financial aid or things that could maybe help you in that process?
Yeah, I looked at a couple of scholarships, especially for community college. That was one of the things I looked at when I first started off with community college, was looking to get some scholarships that would help pay for textbooks or something like that. But once you move to the big four-year university, it was a lot more of financial aid and admittedly some student loans as well that kind of helped me get through that process.
Well, it's a part of it sometimes, to get that education. And I know I did the same thing looking at scholarships and all that kind of stuff. And you were talking about involving your children in the process of it. What would maybe be some practical tips for people to do that with their children?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, especially if they're starting college, one of the main things is they have to fill out a FAFSA, for financial aid. Make sure you're sitting down with them, inputting that information, because you could let an 18-year-old put all of your tax information on there and it may not be right. So that may cut out financial aid for them in the first place. Second of all would be there's different types of loans. Making sure you're sitting down, you know your homework, and you know all the information of these loans that you're signing up for, to pay back over the years whenever you get done with school.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to add to that.
Well, yeah, some of the things that we've seen clients do in the past. I mean, everybody views it different. Some parents want to pay for all the college if they can, and that's great. Some parents do they'll pay for some of the college, and then maybe I've seen some of our clients give their kids a loan themselves to teach them the value of money and how, if you have a loan, you have to pay it back, and then talk to them about not only getting the loan, but how do you plan on paying it back? And I think that's probably the biggest missed educational piece about the loan process is you're getting a loan and you need to pay it back. So how are you going to pay it back? And if you're going to spend $100,000 on your education, but your degree in college is going to get you a job that's going to pay you a lot, a lower salary for maybe a longer period of time, maybe we need to think about what route to go. So I think there's a lot of lessons that we can teach our younger children to better prepare them when they get out, and be ready for when those loans are due, if they do take a loan, or the process of just preparation and planning, and there's just a lot of teaching moments there.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really great point. Like there could actually be a big educational part of this and helping your children in the future long term when it comes to them planning their own money and financial planning. Well, thinking about college savings accounts, what are the options for that if someone's considering that?
Yeah, so there's a few different options of what we look at, especially in our office. Like Ed alluded to earlier, it's really focusing on what is the goal, what is the objective for the money, and that really opens the door to which option do we want to choose. There's the typical 529, which is like this college savings account as we know it, is you put money in there for your child. You can transfer it to another child if you'd like, but it's primary for college and maybe some other tuition associated with high schools and stuff like that. But you have a 529, and then really you have these other type of accounts that are really put back. It may not be exactly for school, and that's really what we like to look at is, all right, I have a 1-year-old daughter. I'm not exactly sure if she's going to college or not. I can't look 18 years down the road. So my wife and I have looked at the different options, and we went with different investments, different tools to be able to help us get there, and have options whenever she does turn 18 or 19 and gets ready for college.
I think you have to be very careful when you pick and choose what types of plans you're going to have for college, like Forrest said, because when someone's really young, you don't know if they're going to go to college. So if you're locking money up into a plan that's designated just for college or just for higher education or just for this, if you need that money for other things to raise the child, or maybe they don't. Maybe they go to a trade school. Maybe they go straight and open their own business. There's all kinds of different paths that we see. So you just have to be careful and understand the pros and cons of each of those options. So the planning always comes back to the planning side.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it comes back to planning early, right? Thinking about those things early on. And that's a good point. You know that things may change over time, even though you were planning for that. So good to keep that in mind, right? Well, we were talking about, were you going to say something, Zach?
Yeah, I was just going to say, what do you think are a couple of really, really quick bullet points just to get the ball rolling as far as college savings goes?
I would say that, probably just often. Often. In fact, as soon as you can, and probably consistency, I guess, would be the one thing. Just as soon as you can, and then being consistent about it. Whatever path you choose, whatever option that you want to choose, I would say consistency is probably one of the biggest things in finance. And
if you had one piece of advice for how to avoid debt in this process, it's probably what we were talking about student loans. There's obviously people are thinking about that. If you had one piece of advice, how could we best avoid that? What would you share?
I guess if I would go back to the planning side, and I would say really think about why are you going to college? What's the purpose? And look at it as an investment in your life, and look at it as, does this investment make sense for the cost that I'm paying for that investment? And really think about, hey, if I do have to go into debt, and you're asking how to stay out of it, sometimes you can't. Sometimes there's no option. But early, often, and consistency, and then making sure That was 4, but there you go.
That's
Just
all right.
I mean, making sure that you understand the value and of your investment you're putting in yourself and how you're going to pay it back if you do have to go into debt.
And one of the ways Zach alluded to it earlier was community college. Zach, myself, Ed,
Yeah.
we've been to community college, so you're really saving up front your first 2 years. And while you're doing that, you're also figuring out, what do I want to do? Because the last thing you want to do is go to college and pay all this money and figure out, well, that's not the career I want anymore. So just making sure those early years, that it helps a lot on the cost for community college.
Yeah.
I know that when you're just going into college, I'm sure that four-year university is a very popular choice, probably one that a lot of kids want to pick. Just go ahead and go straight to that four-year university and get that college experience going. But yeah, you mentioned it. We've got at least 3 in the room. I'm not sure if you did, but we've got 3 in the room that went to community college, and I would recommend community college starting out for anybody.
Yeah, that's really great practical advice here. And thank you both so much for your expertise on this topic. And that's our time for now. But again, thank you. We've had Ed Cox and Forrest Ryals from Magnolia Wealth Management joining us today. And we appreciate your practical tips and advice on all of this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it.